So I bought some seed crackers from the supermarket, which are gluten-free, vegan, and they were really yum, but very expensive. And so I looked at the ingredients on the back and I thought, these wouldn't be too hard to recreate. So after just a little trial, I made some really great crackers. For $6, I get all these crackers in comparison to 5 of these ones. And the ones I have are actually bigger. And you know what? They even taste better. There's no hidden nasties and they're totally customizable. If you don't like a seed, swap it out for another seed. Today I'm making a savoury one and then a sweet and savoury one. And while we're on the subject of seeds, I want to show you a salad topper that I've been making forever. And it's really delicious on salads or on avocado toast, on rice, or sprinkled on vegetables. Everyone I've given these crackers to has asked me for the recipe. They're that good. And this is how I do it. So I'll leave the gram measurements in the recipe on the website as well. So simply into a bowl, put 2/3 a cup of white sesame seeds, 1/2 cup of sunflower seeds, 1/2 cup of pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds, and 6 tablespoons of black sesame seeds. Now I love these mainly for the dramatic look they give the crackers. If you can't get them, you can use linseeds or just more sesame seeds. And then 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk. And this is not the powdered variety, it's the sort of whole husk. So 2 tablespoons of them. And then 2 tablespoons of corn flour, and corn flour gives it a little crunch and it makes the crackers more crunchy. 1 teaspoon of salt. Combine that all together. And then add 1 cup of water, 250 mils, and 4 teaspoons of olive oil, or whatever oil you like. You can use coconut oil, macadamia oil, avocado oil, but I'm just using olive oil. Stir that well, and then let it rest for 10 minutes. And that will thicken it all up. And while that's resting, preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius with a fan, or 180 degrees without a fan, conventional oven. So, you know, pretty slow oven. And after 10 minutes, the mixture is really thick thanks to the psyllium husk. So what I like to do is put it on the baking paper before I put it on the tray, and that way I can slice it really lovely. Now I find the easiest way to spread this out is either with wet hands or with oil rubbed on your hands. Or if you don't like touching food, you can definitely use a spatula, but I like to use wet hands. And that way it doesn't stick to my hands. And what I'm trying to do here is just to form it into sort of like a rectangular shape. And you can have these thicker if you like, or thinner if you like. I've tried a few different thicknesses now. If they're thicker, they just take longer to bake. So maybe that's 1/2 centimetre or 1 centimetre. So I like just to put it in a neat sort of rectangle. And then maybe just go over it with a spatula to see if it's all even. And I found the best way to slice these without it sticking is to get your knife and just put a little drizzle of olive oil on the knife, the cut side. And then just straight up and down. So just straight up and down. And you may need to put a little bit more oil on your knife, but this will give you the cleanest cut. And and I like them sort of quite long. Halfway. And when you do cut them, you can just sort of spread them a little bit so there's a little bit of a gap between them. But they're easy to break off when they're like that. And the last thing I like to do for these ones is just sprinkle a little bit of sea salt, and I just sprinkle it, maybe a half a teaspoon. And then all I do is put them on a tray and put them in the oven for about 35 to 50 minutes. So I'm going to check it after 35 minutes and see how they're going. Just in the middle shelf. Now for the sweet, salty type of crackers. So it's basically the same, and this time I'm going to give you the gram measurement. So it's 85 grams, 2/3 a cup of white sesame seeds, a half a cup of sunflower seeds, which equate to 70 grams, a half a cup of pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds, which are 80 grams, 6 tablespoons, which is 80 grams of black sesame seeds, but again you can use white sesame seeds if you can't get these, or linseeds, or just simply some more pepitas or sunflower seeds. 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk, which is 18 grams. 2 tablespoons of corn flour, which is 30 grams, and that gives it a nice crunch. 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm still going to put a little salt in these ones because it's sort of like a salty sweet cracker. And I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of cranberries, dried cranberries. If yours are huge, you can chop them up. And also 4 heaped tablespoons of flaked almonds, or you can just chop up natural almonds. And because I think cranberry goes so well with orange, 1 teaspoon of finely grated orange rind. And I give that a good mix, just combine all those ingredients. Then I add 250 ml, which is the Australian cup measurement of water, 4 teaspoons of oil. I'm just using olive oil, but again, you can use any oil you like. I'll give it a good mix, and you know, at this point the mixture is runny and you think to yourself, how is that ever going to thicken up? But the psyllium husk just really thickens up. Just leave it 10 minutes once you've thoroughly combined it. I actually forgot an ingredient, and that's 2 teaspoons of honey in the sweet one. And just 2 teaspoons. I don't want them too sweet. And that's already starting to thicken up. I'll come back in a few minutes. And you know, a spatula works if you don't like using your hands. But I like using my hands. They're my best instrument in the kitchen, to be honest. And again, just put in a tiny bit of olive oil on the cutting edge, both sides of the knife. This makes it easy to cut them, and they don't stick to the knife. And you can make them thinner if you like. Totally customisable, these biscuits. You might need to add a little bit of oil in between the cuts. Half down the middle. And the last thing I'm going to do with these, even though they've got a bit of sweetness, I like the salty and sweet, so I'm just going to put a little bit of salt over the top, about a half a teaspoon or so. And I should chop these finely, but I'm feeling a bit lazy. Just a few more little cranberries. And I'll press them down a bit. I think apricots would go nice too. And you can use any type of nuts. Right, I'll wait till the other ones are ready, and then I'll put these ones in the oven. And just while we're on the subject of seeds, I want to show you this really easy salad topper, or you can put it on avocado on toast. It's one of my favourite ones. And all I do into a saucepan is I just put a half a cup of sesame seeds, a half a cup of sunflower seeds, and a half a cup of pepitas, pumpkin seeds, a good teaspoon of salt, or even a little bit more, and a good teaspoon of pepper. And all I do is take these over to the stove and I stir them over a medium heat until they're lovely and golden brown. Well, until the sesame seeds are golden brown, because they're the ones that will cook first and they'll burn easy if you don't keep an eye on them. So this usually takes about 10 minutes over a medium heat, and I stir frequently. And after a few minutes you'll notice the sesame seeds start to brown, and I just stir it quite frequently at this point because sesame seeds can burn easy. But once the sesame seeds are nice and golden brown, then it's ready. And that's how easy this seed chopping is. They've got some lovely colour on them and they're nice and toasted and I can smell them. So I just turn them off and let them cool. And to cool them down a bit quicker, I'll just pop them into a bowl. And look at the lovely colour on that. They're so good, those seeds. So that's been 35 minutes. And what I do now is just go over the cuts a little, just to reinforce them, but it's still got a little while to go yet. So the goal here is to bake them until all the moisture's out of them. So sometimes this takes me like another 10, 20 or even 30 minutes depending how thick I've made them. And if you like, you can just flip them over, which will brown up both sides. I don't necessarily do that every time. And I made a version with some tahini in the mix and they were delicious, but they did take longer to cook just to dry out the tahini a bit. And I'm going to pop these ones back in the oven and I'll check on them in about 15 minutes, which means they've had 50 minutes all up. They're smelling very nice. They've had 50 minutes now and they're nice and like they feel like they're dried out, and that's how you want them. And I'll just dry them out completely. And these don't last long in our house. I love them with cheese and Vegemite or cheese and tomato or peanut butter, or you can make them smaller and serve them with dips, whatever you like, on your dry biscuits or crackers as they're known elsewhere. Oops. And now I'm going to put these sweet savoury ones in the oven. And this time I know that it's going to take 55 minutes because I have made these a bit on the thicker side today. Oh, these look lovely. That's the sweet and savoury ones. So I'm just going to transfer them to the rack to dry them out a bit. And you may need just to separate them with your knife a little bit. But just a little bit because they've been pre-cut. I think the honey might have browned these up a little, to be honest. I was thinking, why did these brown up quicker than the other ones? And I think it was the honey in there. Just those 2 teaspoons of honey added some lovely colour. They look so impressive. They're just such a wonderful cracker biscuit and they don't take long at all to make, and they're so much cheaper than the ones they have in the shop, and there's no nasties in this at all. No hidden seed oils or anything, just pure goodness. And that's a really yummy snack, lunch, or even breakfast, and super healthy. And I want to show you the snap. crunchy. And these ones are the fruit ones. Well, it's got a bit of dried fruit in it. Same thing though. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy these cracker biscuits as much as I do. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.